This is the latest environment for my dream game project, Legend 64. It is the entry room of the haunted castle, and it serves as the game's main hub from which you'll explore and uncover secrets. I focused on creating an open yet dynamic space, with an emphasis on an eerie ambience that entices you to delve deeper into the castle. I've drawn inspiration from many places, but a modern phenomenon has perhaps had the biggest influence. If you've been on the internet recently, you've probably come across the term liminal space. On YouTube alone, there is a plethora of videos compiling these low-resolution images. There's nothing inherently scary about them, but if you're like me, you'd probably agree they are somewhat unnerving. But it's hard to say why that is. So what is a liminal space? Well, the definition states it's a place of transition, a threshold between 2 points, signaling the end of one time or space and the beginning of another. A schoolyard at night, an empty hotel lobby, an unfurnished home. All of these places are in a state of transition, awaiting to fulfill the functions they are designed for. The aspect that unnerves me the most about these images is the complete absence of people. Maybe it's this very juxtaposition of what are supposed to be well-populated areas, now deserted, that just makes them so uncanny to me. And nowhere have I felt that sense of unease so strongly than in...
It's me, Mario! Hello!
Yeah, I know it wasn't intentional or anything, but Super Mario 64 just feels off to me. If you've ever played it, you'd probably agree that it has a weird atmosphere, but not in an abstract or nonsensical sort of way, in a subtle, uneasy, liminal space sort of way. And I would say that this is largely down to the game's primary setting, the mysterious and expansive castle. At first glance, it seems normal enough. At the start of the game, you even get a nice flyover, and all the while this is happening, your brain is being fed information as to the size of this place. So before you've even begun playing the game, you've already established in your mind what you can expect when you start exploring. However, as you begin to press further into the suffocating depths of the place, a sense of unreality starts to take root. The game lied. The castle is far bigger than what we were led to believe. It's a labyrinth-like maze of hallways that double back on themselves and seem to stretch on way beyond the four walls of the castle exterior. I guess I find Peach's castle so spooky because of the fact that it's so clearly not the same dimensions on the inside. It's like the game knows this as well, and it's taunting you a little with that initial flyover. Whether it was intentional or not, the castle gives off an unearthly quality, and it's one of those things that only works due to the way older games are made. You can get away with a lot when you have that fade out between areas. It's weird. With these thoughts in mind, I created a blockout of the level in Unreal Engine. This area will serve as the main hub for the game, and the player will come through here a lot. As such, I wanted it to be a visually memorable place. My main focus was to create a grandiose sense of scale, juxtaposing the player character with the cavernous entrance hall. I was interested in extending the height of the environment by adding a second level immediately within view that wouldn't be obviously accessible, prompting curiosity and a desire to explore the space. What was really important to me was that the area feel huge without it being too boring to traverse. If it were just a large empty space without any intrigue, it wouldn't be nearly as fun to explore. I've tried my best to capture that sense of liminality that was so palpable in games like Mario 64. I've also drawn a lot of inspiration, not just from games, but film as well, And there was one I had specifically in mind while I was designing this place. The Shining does something special in making the hotel feel at once spacious and yet claustrophobic. I love the stark contrast of the featureless red pillars. They look like ominous standing stones guarding the corridor. I was eager to replicate these in my own design, but on a colossal scale. My intention was to give the interior of the castle an impossible cyclopean sense of size, especially when compared to the exterior. You can even see how the outside fits comfortably into the hallway. Gotta love old game design, huh? At the end of the hallway, I knew I needed to have some kind of showstopper, something interesting that would serve as a focal point for the area and draw the player's attention to it. I had heard a lot about the AI Midjourney, and I wanted to see what I could come up with. I fed it some prompts, and it generated these beautiful celestial stairways. They give a truly otherworldly feeling. And so, I tried making something similar in 3D. But it didn't really do it for me. I think the problem with Midjourney, at least from my perspective, is that when you can generate whatever you want, you often get tempted to overdo things design-wise. I fed it some more prompts, and while I liked the results, I didn't feel like it was generating anything that would actually look how I wanted. I think I actually like Midjourney the most when it's only partway done generating the images. I find something like this far more pleasing because the images are more about suggesting a certain feeling, and you can use them as a jumping off point rather than an overly detailed design. I've learnt that you can't rely on the AI just to design things for you, and so I deleted it. I'm using a single image file to texture every environment in my game with. I found using a texture atlas has prompted me to reuse textures in a lot of places where I may not have done so otherwise. For example, this decal at the foot of the stairway is actually just a super zoomed in part of another texture. Stretching textures in this way is similar to how developers on the Nintendo 64 would have approached this stuff, and I feel it adds a lot to help make my game capture that retro look I'm aiming for. I created a section of ceiling tiles based on some reference images and began repeating them across the upper section of the entrance hall. I really like the striking jade colour, and I think it acts as a small visual reward for coming up here. I still needed a way to get across the upper floors, but I was worried it might ruin the view from down below. I had a bridge asset in the castle exterior section, so I tried it out here, and it actually looked pretty good. The section that caused me the most headaches was this balcony area, because it created an ugly tangent on the floor below. I ended up removing the base and extending the far wall, but it was very tricky to get the finer details in place, as I didn't have great reference for an area like this. It took a lot of fine tuning, but here's what I came up with. I decided to make the main focal point of the space an unreachable balcony area, implying that there are deeper locations to the castle waiting to be discovered. And high above it, there is a gaping hole in the ceiling, revealing a much larger space beyond it. I added these golden engravings of clouds to suggest that the further up the castle you progress, the more celestial it becomes. The final area is sitting at 3,699 triangles. Perhaps a little expensive for an N64 stage, but I'm happy with it. I consider lighting to be the most important step in making a game environment look good, and I knew this would be crucial in reducing the visual noise in here. I've dimmed the light way down and brought in some low-hanging fog to enhance the otherworldly feel of the place. I've added baked-in lighting effects in some parts of the environment as well. I feel like this makes them look more mysterious, as though someone might be in one of these rooms. Areas like this corridor use vertex paint to add an additional layer of fog, making it look like it runs off into the darkness. Quite unsettling. I've also used this trick to invert the effect, to indicate a space that leads back outside. I may end up changing a lot of this, but for now it's hitting the right vibe I had in mind. It feels like anything could be lurking in wait for you in here. As a finishing touch, one thing I've been eager to do for a while now is make it so that you can actually enter the castle from outside. It's led nowhere for long enough. You may remember the level transition volume I set up in a previous devlog. I dropped one in, and now I can finally enter the castle. It's so satisfying to be able to do this after all this time. Did I get you? Yeah, I couldn't resist testing out the Guardian in here. Imagine coming through here hundreds of times, getting used to the emptiness, and then randomly you hear something ginormous lumbering toward you out of the darkness. This whole time you've been thinking of the entrance hall as some kind of safe zone, a place without enemies. Encountering something like this would certainly put you on edge throughout the rest of the game. It would make you second guess every room you enter from here on, and I'm seriously considering throwing in some surprise encounters further down the line. I really put it in here just to test how a large-scale enemy might work with all these beams, but seeing it roam around in here, it is really terrifying. And that'll do it for this devlog. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found it interesting. If you'd like to support the project, please head on over to patreon.com/legend64project. A very special thank you to LRC Napkin, Mario Tavolieri, Tyler Hughes, Yaya Damboos, Mason Stooksberry, Waro Duck, Melty Metroid, Paul Mayer Gorham, Daniel H. Hernandez, Power Hungry Fool, Flash the Reploid, Nick Grossi, Nicola Wallen, Bleak Bob, Twyla27, Robert M. Stwali IV, Baby Funky Kong, Unseeing Eyes, Void Kitten, Shinku Aura, Liam Kennedy, Zachary Mabius, Santino, Eric, Kanzen Sun, Takemori, Angius, Bo Eckel, Great Mate, Truman Thomsen, Gustav64, Celador, A Grumpy Fox, and Joe Usher. And I'd also like to thank my 16-bit patrons as well. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next devlog.